What's up, guys? I'm going to be going over my UFC 241 picks, starting off with Eryk Brunson versus Heinisch. Brunson, the plus 130 underdog, looking to get consecutive victories for the first time since he beat Daniel Kelly and Lyoto Machida by knockout in 2017. Before that, he had a two-fight losing streak to Gabriel and Israel Adesanya. So, that's huge competition. Adesanya's fighting for a title, and Jacare is a tough night out for anyone. His punches have tremendous power. 11 of his 19 victories ended in knockout. 6 of his 10 UFC wins have ended in that manner as well. However, 4 of his 5 losses in the octagon have also come by knockout. Because he's too slow to react to the opponent's movements and he leaves his head in the same place. Heinisch, minus 160, looks to extend his 5-fight winning streak and remain perfect. The Hurricane earned a UFC contract on his first-round knockout victory over Justin Sumter on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. He's won both of his fights in the UFC over Cesar Ferreira and Antonio Carlos Jr. He has an awkward, herky-jerky style with stutter steps. He uses lots of feints. He looks for opportunities to catch his adversary or dropping his hands. So that could be good against Brunson. He sets up a lot of his punches with long kicks because of his awkward style. Brunson has a notable power advantage in the fight because he tends to load up on his punches. On the other hand, the Hurricane is more a mobile fighter and does have an issue suffering takedowns, and he has brought to the floor 9 times in his first 2 UFC bouts. Brunson averages 2.9 takedowns per 15 minutes, including bringing Elias Theodorou, a similar fighter to Heinisch, to the floor 4 times in his last fight. So that's where I think the difference is here. I think Eryk Brunson's he wrestled for North Carolina. He's a very accomplished wrestler. I say Eryk Brunson takes this fight to the floor numerous times, and Eryk Brunson wins by decision. Gabriel Benitez versus Sadiq Youssef. Benitez is the plus 220 underdog. His attempt at picking up his first 3-fight winning streak in the octagon. First time we've seen him since May of 2018. He just needed 39 seconds and he knocked out Humberto Bandone. It was his first knockout in the UFC since 2013, and he did it with a slam. He's an aggressive fighter. He storms the front outset with a fight flurry of punches and kicks. He's quite light on his feet, floating around the octagon, moving in and out of danger. His punches are crisp and accurate, finding his opponent's chin with ease, and he averages 4.23 strikes a minute. Youssef, minus 280 favorite, aims to remain undefeated in the UFC and pick up his 5th straight win overall. Super, his nickname, earned a UFC contract with his decision victory over Mike Davis in July 18 and Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. He has backed up that victory with back-to-back wins in the octagon, most recently earning a unanimous decision triumph over Shayman Moraes in March. Benitez and Youssef should put on a show in this bout. Mowgli, that's Benitez's nickname, he's a lot lighter on his feet and constantly bounces around, but he does like to be the aggressor. Meanwhile, Super, that's Youssef's nickname, slowly inches forward and stands a little bit more flat-footed, sitting down in his strikes with a lot more power. I see Benitez as a live underdog in this fight. He's on a 3-fight win streak, and I see him as a big-time live underdog. I'm going with Benitez. Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa. Romero's back in action for the first time since he fought Robert Whittaker. It was a split decision loss, and if you ask me, Yoel Romero won that fight, which is saying a lot because I think Robert Whittaker might be the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC. Cuban native, he's an extremely patient fighter who does a lot of 10 extra by dancing around and finding angles. He typically stands just on the outside of his opponent's range and slowly rocks back and forth until he storms forward with a flurry of punches or a takedown. He only averages 3.28 strikes per minute, but when he unloads, it's typically bad news for opponent. Just ask Luke Rockhold. Additionally, his defense is tight, making his foes miss 63% of their attempts. By the way, that Luke Rockhold knockout was brutal. Costa, on the other hand, lays his perfect record on the line as he's 4-0 in the octagon and 12-0 over a Boachina has made short work of his opponents, having just one fight in his career go further than the halfway mark in the second round, and that was his last bout when he knocked out Uriah Hall at 2:38 of the second round. Only 12 of his professional wins, 11 have been by knockout and 1 by submission. I don't see him knocking out Yoel Romero. I just don't see that. What a potential war between two guys who look like they were cut from granite and have contrasting styles. Costa is an all-out aggression, looking to put his opponents away in devastating fashion, while Romero is much more patient and more technically sound. Costa has an issue by absorbing 5.9 strikes per minute, and against a power puncher like Romero, he could be in some trouble. Lastly, we haven't seen Costa get dragged into deep waters because he's won all of his fights by knockout. Romero has a very good gas tank. I'm taking Yoel Romero. Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz. Pettis looks to get back-to-back victories since he won 5 times in a row back from 2011 to 2014. Showtime dropped 6 of his last 10 fights and has been on a win-1, lose-1 streak over his past 7 bouts. He's coming off a second-round knockout over Wonder Boy, earning his first round knockout since he beat Donald Cerrone back in 2013 in that manner. So, I mean, everybody's talking about how good Pettis has looked, but, I mean, he has looked good. Now that I think about it, because where you go with this one is, I think Pettis is the much more technically sound striker. He's more refined, but you can't sleep on Nate Diaz either. Nate Diaz is a very smart. They both have high fighter IQs, but I think Pettis is more refined. Okay. Showtime has a good chin with his 2 knockout losses coming in the 3rd round with a ton of damage. He had a corner stoppage TKO against Tony Ferguson, and that's saying a lot because Tony Ferguson, I feel, is the best fighter in the UFC. And he broke his hand in that fight. He became the first fighter to knock out Wonder Boy, showing his power at a higher weight class. Diaz aims to knock off some ring rust as he steps in the octagon for the first time since UFC 202 in August 2016. Diaz had back-to-back high-profile fights against Conor McGregor with the second-round submission and then the 5-round decision that he lost. He has fantastic cardio and an in-your-face, all-out style fighting. Diaz predominantly likes to be a counter-striker and will challenge his opponents by slapping them, swearing at them, or giving them the finger. That being said, he only has 5 knockout wins to his name and typically keeps his touching his opponents over and over again, but not with a ton of power. These are 2 very similar fighters who are extremely entertaining with their solid chins, flashy strikes, and willingness to engage their opponent. There is some bad blood between the 2 as well, dating back to when Pettis defended his lightweight belt against Diaz's friend and teammate Gilbert Melendez. I think that Pettis tends to load up on his strikes a little bit more, while Diaz likes to frustrate his opponents and can do so for a long period of time. Pettis' kicks could be the deciding factor. Prediction, Anthony Pettis. I'm taking Anthony Pettis. I mean, as long as he doesn't, if Pettis doesn't break his hand, and it seems like his power transferred at 170, yeah, I predict Anthony Pettis to win. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic. Cormier makes his second title defense in a rematch over a year in the making. DC made his jump to heavyweight division in July last year, and he earned a first knockout over Stipe. Cormier hasn't lost since UFC 182 in 2015, when he lost to John Jones. He also lost to John Jones, but it was a failed drug test. But if you ask me, that's bullshit because John Jones had a legit knockout. So if you ask me, DC lost twice. The Louisiana native has a terrific blend of boxing and wrestling. Cormier competed in wrestling in the 2004 Olympics. At heavyweight, he has much more power in his punches. Miocic returns to the octagon for the first time since he lost the title at UFC 226 in 2018. The 36-year-old has been on a tear prior to that loss, winning 6 straight fights, including setting a UFC heavyweight record with 3 title defenses. These two had a spirited, a bit short affair when they first met up. Miocic looking strong, early pressing Cormier against the cage, earned a takedown and had some success with his hands. DC picked up the first round, progressed, letting his hands fly at striking range, basically going shot for shot with Miocic. The end of the fight with a well-paced right hook with a clinch that put the former champ to sleep. I think DC was gaining in momentum and confidence as the fight went on. But here's what happened, really. And DC said this in an interview. He said it took him timing to get Miocic's timing down. That's why you saw Miocic winning in the early round, or the early minutes. So I think DC already has his timing down now. I see DC winning a 5-round decision, if not an early stoppage. It's either going to be like a second or third round stoppage, or it's going to go the whole way to the end. And it's hard to pick against Miocic because, before DC, he's been on a tear. But remember, another thing, DC's undefeated at heavyweight. So I think he continues that. I'm picking DC for the win.